Thank you everyone for joining us today for our panel. We'll be talking about regaining control of IT and ditching the Slack DM chaos. So I'm Vlad, I'll be your MC. Joining me today, we have two amazing seasoned leaders. Before we do the introductions, let me set the stage a little bit. We'll be talking through 4 different topics, about 30 or 40 minutes. We'll leave time at the end for Q&A, but if you want, just send some questions in the chat and we'll read them at the end. If you find this content useful, want to watch it again, something good with the recording, and we'll be recording and sending this to you and posting it into our blog. So to start off, let's do a little bit of introductions. Once again, I'm Vlad. I'm the founder of Foqal. Foqal is a ticketing and automation platform that streamlines Slack and MS Teams channels to an efficient service operation and an excellent user experience. So with me today are Rami of Cohere and Nathan of Xilio. Rami has been on the forefront of IT as both a leader and implementer from all the big companies. So LinkedIn, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, and now he's at a company that's completely changing the world with their large language model, a company called Cohere. And Nathan has been in every role in the IT world, from leading software developments and networks in 1989 to being a CIO, advisor, teacher, author, and SVP of IT at Xilio Therapeutics, where he's changing the world and curing cancer. He also has a podcast, multiple books, and we'll be sending a link to that afterwards. So without further ado, I want to kind of turn it over to our panelists. Let me ask you both to introduce yourself. As a fun question, what is your favorite show that you're currently watching or recently watched? And at a high level, tell us a little bit about your high-level strategy on how you're using Slack with IT. And just to start off, let me hand it over to Rami.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining. My name is Rami. I'm the head of IT at Cohere. We're a large language model company, AI company. It's very similar to ChatGPT, do generative embeddings, summarization, that kind of stuff, more enterprise focus. TV show that I'm just finished watching was We Crashed. It was like a 5-part or 6-part series about the WeWork collapse. I think it's Netflix. It was really, really good. If anybody is interested in that kind of stuff, it was a good show. I enjoyed it. And in terms of leveraging, Slack for our IT support, it's been actually a game changer for us since we switched to Foqal and kind of focused on doing everything for in terms of integrating all the automations that Foqal provides in our Slack, so that our users can basically have the whole interaction in Slack, and it's all being documented in Foqal. So that's been a huge help for us. It's allowed us to log every single ticket without us actually having to go log the tickets, which is it's been a huge improvement. I guess we'll talk a little bit about that later, but yeah, it's been definitely leveraging Slack for IT support has saved us a ton of time, made us more efficient, and allowed us to take advantage of a lot of the automations that it can provide. So it's been a great experience.
I saw that show, by the way, the WeWork show. It's fantastic. It's like watching a car accident in slow motion. So I'm Nate McBride. I'm the SVP of IT at Xilio. I'm the N of 1, so I am the entire IT department. I don't have an MSP or any other external help, so it's just me. So I had to, when I came in here in September of 22, I had to find a way to get this world. Hold on, it's asking me to translate myself into Portuguese. I'm going to pass on that in Zoom there. Okay. So anyway, my whole life is built around automating as much as possible and preemptively striking against any possible issue. And to that end, I look for the sort of fastest and best tools, best of breed across the board. No SharePoint or Teams here. It's very much an open to kind of stack. And I empower the users far more than most companies do underneath that umbrella. For my shows, well, if you've seen The Great on Hulu, which was maybe one of my top 3 favorite shows of all time, then you understand why the regime, which is now on, I think it's on Netflix, is my new sort of drug of choice, because it's the same kind of take a leader of a country, watch them disassemble in real time, and try to sort of make it into dark humor. So I'm loving the regime. It's so cringy that it's hard to break away from. But I'm looking forward to the new Game of Thrones season 2. And then in terms of Slack, well, Slack's been put in my stack for about the last 6 years, actually 7 now. And Slack, combined with the rest of my sort of stack, is what allows me to operate in very, very lean IT. A lot of what we do here at the company is sort of programmatic in terms of the life sciences industry. So there's not a whole lot of curveballs that come at us. When they do, though, it's very easy to sort of bat them into the triage for the help desk. I don't, and we'll talk about this in a minute, I don't really follow traditional ITSM models or ITIL models for help desk. I kind of go a different direction. Again, we can explore that, but without Slack and a platform like Foqal, there's no way I could do what I do.
Awesome. I feel like I have a couple of new shows to watch since I haven't watched any of these. And by the way, for me, if anybody's, I think the thing that I'm like most excited about shows right now is Shogun on Hulu. It's a great show.
Did you read the show?
I did not read the book. I was actually after seeing the show, or after seeing the like kind of the show, I'm wondering if I should like read or watch the, I think it was a 1980s show. I think like watch that, like the older show, and then read the book as well. But I'll probably get there at some point. I love that history and like Japanese history in general. So anyway, this is, thanks for that kind of like the introduction, the background. I think a lot of the things that we hear, just to kind of kick it off, I think a lot of the stuff that we hear in terms of why people are using Slack for support is a lot of times it's around kind of the employee experience and user experience. And kind of the thing that we hear from our customers is that employees don't want to just log into some system and fill out a long questionnaire and they just want to get like a charging cable. So if the only option that's available, employees tend to just direct message their favorite person or their favorite IT person in Slack. So, and the problem with that is that those requests are usually not getting tracked. There's no opportunity for deflection or automation. We'll talk a lot about that, I think, soon. And those requests are often just getting lost, which means that, when they're not getting responded to, you're going to get some poor CSAT and NPS ratings. So I guess, how do you fix that? How do you fix the employee experience so that employees stop direct messaging all day? And maybe let's start with Nathan this time.
So from my perspective, and this goes back a ways, I can't remember where I picked this up, but I'm sure I stole it from somebody years and years ago. After I moved away from the Zendesk model back in, I think it was 18 or 19, over to Slack, the idea of creating a sort of central channel in Slack, which I think is pretty much what everybody does, the help channel for IT. Once that channel was created, a couple things happen. Number one, you sort of begin to change the idea of a drive-by into less of a physical item or event into a digital event. So while we try to sort of subdue drive-bys at all costs, they start to happen over Slack. And that was actually a little bit better though, because when we open up that channel to the whole company, we ultimately allow anybody to sort of crowdsource support the question. And what we see, ironically, and as time has gone on over the years, I see that actually before I can even get to answering a question, usually it's been answered by an employee who just wants to jump in and sort of like, hey, I know the answer to that, and sort of get some extra credit. So in a lot of cases, having that central channel was the key. I've tried models where I've had like general help channel, help Zoom, help Slack, help Chrome. I tried all these secondary channels, and that model works or it doesn't. It doesn't seem like there's a middle differential. I've been at companies where people actually use those channels and ask questions directly in those channels per that thing, but then you get runaway threads and stuff. And so I think it always made the most sense. And what I do today is just have one channel. It's just one central place. All requests go into there, all questions, all incidents. And from there, using just emojis and other little sort of nifty little tools, we can sort of bat those around. But that has been sort of the key, is one big giant funnel into a single channel in Slack. And that's what's been the differentiator for us.
One of the interesting things actually about that, let me ask you, is that like you mentioned, other employees tend to kind of chime in and try to answer the question, kind of get that, extra credit. Did, do you often see that those questions, or the people that are answering, is that usually kind of right? Do you see that sometimes people will interject an answer and you're like, well, hold on, that's not exactly right.
Yeah, that's a good question because sometimes it's not the answer I would have given, but it's still a good answer. So what I'll do is I'll say something like, "That's an awesome answer, Ben. Thanks so much for saying that. And also, you want to do this, right?" Or if it's completely wrong, or it's not even close to what the person's asking, I'll simply just delete the post as if it didn't exist ever to begin with, and then I'll answer it. And then I'll go to that person directly and say, "Thanks very much. Your help is always appreciated. In this case, you were wrong, so I removed your post so you wouldn't look like you didn't know what you were doing." And that person's usually actually pretty grateful that I've done that.
Yeah.
So I try not to be an overlord on that. I try to like encourage more people support.
Gotcha. And I guess that also kind of gives you that faster turnaround time for answers, that even if you're not around, people are getting an answer a lot faster. They're not necessarily kind of waiting for something else where somebody else might be able to help there.
Well, what's interesting, just to not to go off too much on a tangent, but we have all these functional program channels. So we have a channel for every department. We have all these channels, and I'm in every single channel that's not private. And I see a lot of people sort of work through problems with each other in these department-specific channels or program-specific channels that they're not even going to IT. I can see them talking with each other like, "Hey, I'm in Tableau and I'm trying to do this thing. How would I do it?" And then someone else is saying, "Well, I'll do this, that, and the other thing." And I'm like, "Great, just keep going. You guys are killing it. This never is going to even get to me. I'm aware. I'll follow up." But they're self troubleshooting, and I think that's indicative of a lot of things that are happening in today's culture, especially in terms of the velocity they want to maintain. I don't think it's anything to do with me or my poor service. It's just a matter of they're with their people who understand their problems better than I possibly could by even a fraction of a percent. So why not go to the true source? I love it.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Remy, turning over to you actually. So when we were talking a little bit earlier, you were telling me about this interesting number that we kind of figured out, this metric of 14%. Can you tell us a little bit about what that number means, or kind of where that number came from?
Yeah, for sure. So, before we were using another help desk tool, and basically the problem I think that everybody faces in IT support is that um, technicians are busy, they're answering questions. A lot of them, like and Nathan alluded to, people want real-time interaction. They don't want to send an email somewhere and hope that somebody reads it, and they don't know where the status is. When anybody who's implemented Slack in their ecosystem, it becomes the central nervous system for communications, and people will automatically, they want an answer now, so they'll DM you even if you do have a help desk ticketing system or whatever. They'll just bypass that and just reach out. So very much similar to Nathan, we have an IT support channel that is public to the whole company, and we've definitely benefited from all the stuff that Nathan talked about, where people are helping to answer questions. Especially in a department that has a lot of engineers, they hop in sometimes, and especially stuff with like GCP issues and GitHub issues and stuff like that. Someone asks a question, is an IT support channel, but engineers are going in there and answering and kind of doing our work for us, which helps us a lot. But the other thing we found is, we wanted a way to also log every ticket. Of course, like every company does, we want it for metrics. We wanted to kind of CYA, cover your ass, in case something goes wrong in the future. But as you know, I think in most companies, 30%, 20% of the tickets actually get logged, because, especially when you're getting DMs, you don't have, you're responding to the next question. You don't really have time to go back and kind of fill out all the information of and, summarize the interaction. So one thing that we've really enjoyed doing is we've set it up, with a lot of automations, so that whenever somebody asks a question in IT support, basically one of our technicians will respond with a specific emoji that we've selected. And as soon as they select, as soon as they respond to the IT support request with that emoji, and in our case, it's just a little emoji that says ACK for acknowledged. And as soon as they push that emoji, a ticket gets created in Foqal automatically. It gets assigned to the IT technician who pushed that emoji out. and basically every interaction in the Slack thread gets recorded. So basically we do our whole communications in Slack in the thread, responding to their issues and going back and forth until the problem's solved. As soon as the problem's solved, we use another emoji, which is just a green check mark that just signifies that the ticket has been resolved, and that automatically closes the ticket in Foqal for us. So basically every single ticket or every single question that gets put in IT support gets logged without us ever having to log anything, which is amazing for us, because the amount of we're a company of about 320 people right now, and we probably log about 350 tickets a month between onboarding, offboarding, and all the other stuff that we have to do. And again, if we were taking 2 to 3 minutes to log every single ticket times 350 tickets, let's say, now you're looking at 1,000 minutes a month that we basically got back in productivity, because everything's being logged without us ever having to log anything, just communicating through the Slack thread. Everything's being recorded in the ticket, which is amazing for us. So that's been a huge improvement. Our previous system, we were logging about 15% of our tickets, and when we switched over, now we're logging pretty much 100%. So without wasting any time on our administrative tasks, which is the big thing for us. So that's been a massive efficiency. And now other teams in our company are asking, like, hey, we want this too for our, the engineers wanted, the HR wants it, so we're looking into implementing it for them as well.
That is awesome. That 14% is very cool. Like, is that you kind of mentioned only 14% of your tickets, and I'm thinking this is actually kind of standard across the board. I mean, I've heard another customer talk about, like, it was a little higher. They were saying like 40, Foqal, they were only logging about 40% of their tickets because something like 60% of the time they were getting a DM or they were getting some kind of message somewhere that wasn't an actual ticket and that wasn't getting captured. But in kind of preparing for this call, I was talking to both of you, and I was amazed at like how important automation was. And not only how important automation was, but like how subtly you applied it, subtly you kind of applied that automation. And what that means is like it's kind of a different employee experience where it's mostly human. It's not like a chatbot that introduces themselves like, "Hi, I'm Clippy" or something. It's like very, very human. And I think that's one of the features that our customers love, that employees get feeling that they're talking to a human, or, the help desk folks are able to use automation and kind of, approval workflows and onboarding, offboarding flows and access requests and all hardware requests, all that stuff. But, for the employee, it's a very kind of human experience. So kind of maybe, Rami, to start off with you, you told me that we're kind of prepping for this call. You were telling me about an offboarding automation. So can you talk a little bit about how that works and kind of maybe how you're going forward with other automations?
Yeah, I can actually mention a few of the automations that we've implemented. One of them is that we really like a lot is, again, as soon as one of the technicians acknowledges the ticket, it gets assigned to them. The user gets or the employee who initiated the ticket gets an automated message letting them know which technician is going to be taking care of them. Like Rami will be taking care, of the ticket, so that they know they have a point of contact. The next thing that it does is, again, in the Slack thread, we can categorize the ticket and the severity and kind of subcategorize whatever, so we can fill out all that information on behalf of the employee, again, so that they don't have to deal with that. We kind of focus on white glove service, and kind of the way we look at our IT is like we want to take on all the IT stuff so that they can focus on what they need to do. So we don't ask them to categorize tickets or figure out what team this is supposed to go to. We fill out all that information, again, all on the Slack thread, and then that creates a ticket. And then some of our subtasks will generate auto responses. Like, for example, if somebody says, "Hey, whatever, I need a GitHub account," or whatever it is. So when we say, okay, access request GitHub, it will automatically post a message with a link to our Notion page that has information about that as well, while we do the back end work, so that they have the information they need. So that's been, again, super helpful, because people get to see that over and over again, because everybody in the company has access to that channel, so everyone else is kind of looking and learning at the same time. And then the other thing that we're doing is, as soon as we close a ticket, they automatically, again, in the Slack thread, get a an option to send any feedback, rate us 1 out of 5, 1 to 5 stars, and then also leave a comment if they want. For offboarding, we're a global, what is it? I don't want to say global first. They changed that. We're a remote friendly company, let's say. And so we have people all over the globe in 30 different countries. And, of course, with all the different time zones. One of the great things is when somebody's offboarding, let's say in Singapore at 5 p.m. Singapore time, before one of us would have to be like, at whatever, 4 o'clock in the morning here in Toronto, trying to make sure to be up and aware to offboard them. But now we just create an offboard ticket, we schedule the time, and we use the automations that are built in to disable their Okta account, disable their Google account, disable their Slack, and kind of get a bunch of the main applications automatically offboarded, and it's all done, through the schedule. As soon as it knows, April 15th, 5 p.m. Singapore, boom, it triggers all that stuff while we're sleeping. And then again, so that's really helped us out a lot, not to miss some of these remote offboards that are happening all around the world, and keep us secure and SOC 2 compliant. So yeah, so these are just some of the automations that we've implemented that again has given us time back, just give us peace of mind, made sure we're compliant with our security policies, and and then just made us a lot more efficient.
This is kind of cool. You were talking about this. It was really cool that that offboarding thing is somebody submits a ticket for an offboarding at 5 p.m. whatever time zone it is, and it's cool that it just kind of happens. Then the automation kicks off and automatically deprovisions the user's Okta account, deprovisions Slack, whatever, all of that stuff, so that you don't even have to do anything. It just kind of does it, and then you can continue sleeping in the middle of the night instead of having to be awake. That's kind of cool. No, it's awesome. And Nathan, I think your approach is actually interesting. That it seems like automation and deflection are kind of like the default. They're not the exception. I think it sounds like a lot of the focus is actually on that. And I assuming that has to do with you having kind of an intentionally small team. But can you talk about how that kind of ties in between Slack and how automation and kind of all of that works, and how you can do all that, and then how you can enable this automation to kind of help you focus on maybe the bigger projects, or kind of what are some of the other things you focus on, because you're able to automate a lot of the support stuff.
Well, so in context, I mean, when I'm talking about automation, I'm talking about a pretty broad world here for that. It's built into every single thing that we pretty much do. I'm a very big structured data type person, so while we use an unstructured collaboration environment, Box, most of the rest of our data in our organization is in a structured format, and that allows us to have notifications sent. And so notifications come in from all various things. So whether they come in from Airtable tables, or they come in from machines in our wet lab, they come in from the HVAC handlers, notifications from the entire company all route to a single place. And you guessed it, it's the help desk channel. And they come in from bots. So we have lots of friendly little named bots running around this organization that are notifying us of things. I actually have a separate channel too for bots that no one needs to know about. But basically all these bots are coming and they're reporting about how they're doing. I'm healthy, I'm sick, I have a problem, here's a notification, so-and-so is leaving, so-and-so is starting. Everything is sort of like constantly being fed into this brain. And so therefore, I don't have to go anywhere to find out sort of how the world is feeling. I sort of always have a temperature of it. And as things come in based on what it is they're saying, I'm either just going to leave it as a Slack notification. Okay, cool. And now I know this thing is about to happen. This piece of software is going to expire in 1 month. No action needed. Or if it's of a different type, I can just immediately assign it an emoji, or I can actually, have it, it'll automatically go right to Foqal if it's of a certain type of notification, and then create a ticket for me. So that broader automation world sitting around Foqal means that everything that comes in is being assessed, and all these hundreds of notifications that come in are sort of being looked at for some sort of value. And if that value is a value that is more than just Nate needing to know, then it will take the action and create the ticket. Otherwise, it will simply just be a notification. And it takes a while to kind of get this going. It's like a lot of webhook development, which I enjoy doing. Actually, it's one of the more fun parts of my job. But once they're all set up and running, it's very cool to kind of sit back and just say, okay, like talk to me. And then there's the people too, of course, right? The people are talking to you as well. But really, through that automation, I'm able to sort of handle that on the reactive side. Now, on the proactive side, there is a component of this where when I see something that looks like something else, for instance, two people are talking about the same thing anywhere inside of Slack, whether it's in Help IT or it's in some other channel, then my immediate reaction is to go fire up Snagit, and I keep the machine right over to my left here with Snagit running full time. And I'm just creating 2-minute videos or 2 MVs. And we're deploying those, like everyone's got who has Snagit is basically able to make those and just deploying tons of them into Slack. And so they exist in pinned items in the channels and in folders and all over the place. And the beauty about Slack, of course, is that it transcribes them. So now it becomes part of the search metadata. So before people are actually starting to even submit any issues these days, and this has been going on as a trend for some time, they're actually looking to see if there's a video available. They're looking for what is the most likely keyword text. And they might not nail it, but I might know the video exists. I can point them right to it. So no ticket needed. Like we already seen this, or even better, if I know that people are talking about it, I'm actually going to push the video to them and say, oh, by the way, if there's any others in your group that you feel may be experiencing this problem, here's a video you can share with them as well. And so this video generation element, I mean, I hate to complain, like it's super fast how we're doing it, but if I could only make it faster, if I can only make it single click on my computer that I can capture anything any moment, as opposed to even having to open Snagit to do it, then I would probably have thousands of videos, not just 8,000 videos. So that's both sides, but by generating the videos, keep in mind that these notifications are coming in from people, we're bouncing them right back out. It's not even going to be an incident. Here's the video. If you still can't do it, then come back. And I'm not seeing that come back. There's no recidivism in terms of, I watched the video and I still didn't get it. They get it and they move on. And then they, of course, share the video with others when others have the same problem. So
it's interesting that your approach isn't exactly like, I think a lot of like IT teams are focused on kind of, maybe it's the reactive versus proactive, that it's like, I think teams focus on like waiting until questions come in and then using, automation deflection and things like that to make sure that when a question comes in, there's always the right answer to it or the answer is available. In this case, it's like before the question even comes in, it's like as soon as the person might think of the question, might think, hey, is this supposed to happen or something, before they even ask your team a question or ask your team for help, they're already getting a video kind of preemptively like, oh, here's something that you might be thinking about or you might need or something to answer your question before it even becomes an IT ticket.
Well, and there's another component to this too, I suppose. And again, then I'll shut up. But basically, if I'm going to deploy something, if there's going to be a change management period prior to a rollout, I'm going to sit there and think about every single possible question. In fact, I might even just do a pilot group to see what questions they have. But I'm going to try and think of every single possible question they might have and then create all the videos for those questions. I realize videos have a sort of minimal lifespan, but especially with the UI changes that occur so frequently in platforms. But the point is that on a rollout phase and in a new employee sort of coming into it to learn things phase, even if they're sort of out of date, they're invaluable. So if I can make, say, 50 videos for actually it was more than that for the Okta rollout, but to give you an example, here's 50 videos. They all have a title of the video, which is relevant to the question, and they all get put with their own metadata text. Then I'm going to teach you, and by the way, here's every single thing I can think of. If you come up with a question that I didn't think of, awesome. It's going to go into that library. But there's a very, very preemptive part of this too, which is I'm not just going to try and wait for questions to come in so I can make videos. I'm going to try and think of every possible video I could make. And that also comes from just observing chatter, being in the lunchroom, listening to people talk in cubes. I'm going to go back and make videos.
I feel like you have a second career as like a director of a Hollywood movie or something.
I will tell you something that's a little bit of sort of a side note, which is that my last company, we considered starting a Twitch channel internally for the company, where we would run Twitch 24/7, sort of on a laptop in our office, and people could tune into the Twitch channel, and we were always showing people how to do things. And so anytime you wanted to watch someone learning something, you could tune into and learn it yourself, kind of like a 24/7 LMS. Tried it, no one ever logged in so to watch. So, but I think there's like something in that could work. I'm not sure yet.
That's awesome. So let's talk about metrics for a little bit. So when we talked a little bit earlier, you both kind of said the same thing, that kind of do it in different ways. Your techniques or your approaches are very different. But I think the kind of the similar thing that you said was that you send a survey, like a CSAT survey, after any question, and then if you have anything other than 5 stars, you kind of dig into the customer, or to the employee. So obviously, customer experience is very important. So I guess besides that, or even maybe if you want to talk about that, what are some of the other key metrics that you're focusing on, and how do you drive those metrics north? And I guess, Rami, let me start with you again.
Yeah, for us, the one metric that we really focus on is time to first response. And for us, that's like one of the most important ones is, we want our employees to feel like they're being heard really, and that they're being attended to really quickly. So, through Slack, we've been able to do that. Sub 5 minutes is our, during working hours, is our time to first response. So everybody gets an acknowledgement of working, that we've acknowledged the ticket and that we're working on it. And then of course 90% of our requests are resolved within actually 3 to 5 minutes of it being opened, especially for access to different systems or groups or whatever applications. And then of course you have the ones that are take longer because they're more kind of project based requests or whatever that may take longer. So the ones that we really focus on is time to first response. We always want to be below 5 minutes, and it's amazing how that transforms the employee experience, right? You become their favorite person, automatically. You become their favorite team, and it just makes your life easier, because when everybody looks at you from a positive lens, it makes your life easier. They're always more patient with you. They always assume you're working your hardest for them, and so it eliminates any of that negative stigma that sometimes some IT departments have. And then of course we at the end of every month we show our metrics, and publicly, we post all our metrics: time to first response, how many tickets open, how many tickets closed, percentage closed, all that kind of stuff, so that people can just kind of have transparency and visibility into what we do. And so, that's the thing we focus on. And any feedback we get that is below 4 star, I as the IT head, will reach out to them personally and just kind of figure out what went wrong, how we could do better next time, and what policies or procedures need to be changed to kind of make us more efficient and make our customers happy. So definitely having all those metrics really helps us a lot.
Out of curiosity, do you ever look at? I mean, I know you share it kind of with the group or with the broader company. Do you look a lot at like ticket counts, like just the number of tickets come in? Is there? Do you take any actions based on that in terms of, like, I know some people look at hiring more people based on ticket counts, or just capacity and like that kind of stuff. They ever look at that kind of stuff?
Yeah, definitely looking at the type of requests that are coming in, and building automations around those, the ones that we can, so that we can, whatever we can automate. If we notice we're getting a lot of requests for Google Groups, for people to be added to Google Groups. All right, so then start looking at, like, all right, how can we make that more efficient? How can we automate that up on onboarding? Figure out, reach out to the managers and see what employees and what OUs need access to which groups, and kind of, again, build that in. So we're definitely using the metrics to kind of guide us into the parts that require more automation on our end. And of course, senior management always wants to know, how things are going. It helps us, for headcount when we need it. And, we actually have all the data there, and they can see about, how many tickets are coming in and how much time is being spent on them and all that kind of stuff. And so that's been huge for us. And the fact that it's all kind of seamless, and we can customize the reports through, Looker Studio, that's been a huge thing for us, because we can really get granular with what we want to highlight and what we want to look at.
That's awesome. And Nathan, kicking back to you, what about you? What are metrics that you're kind of most interested in? How are you driving those north?
Mostly in the same boat, with the fact that anything less than a 5 sort of gets a visit from me, because it's about me, and so I want to know why I didn't get a 5. And people are generally used to me showing up if they would give me a 4, and it's usually something very small. Like the instructions weren't 100% clear. And I'm, it's kind of, sometimes it's eye rolling. Okay. And I'm just going to sort of be more clear in my video. But other times it's just, I didn't feel like it was a 5. Sometimes you do 5, sometimes it's not a 5, and this wasn't a 5. And I often don't get like a whole lot of concrete feedback, I should say. So I tend to, I look at 5s as being sort of the benchmark. Anything less, I'm certainly gonna make a visit, and hopefully I get constructive feedback. But what I'm looking for is overall number of tickets. And I don't want, ideally it's 0 per month. And so for instance, in March, we had 3. And that bums me out. And there were probably things that shouldn't have happened, but that was 3 for a company of 85. And so I'm like I say, I look at those 3 tickets, I say, okay, they were all legitimate. This person's calendar and Outlook just went blank one day. And rather than come to the help channel and ask the question, they submitted a ticket. Okay, that's legitimate. The other 2, maybe not so much, but what could we have done? All were Microsoft related issues, and that's the way the world goes. So I try to keep that number down as low as possible. We've had many months where it's been 0. I would say on a given sort of year, if we were looking at sort of our total average, it's about 3 over the course of the entire year per month, or at least since I started here in 2022. But I do try to keep that number as low as possible. That's a big one. The other thing is, it's sort of a different metric. I haven't had a help desk like what you would call a conventional help desk since 2012 in any company. I've always sort of, I sort of eliminated that idea because I wanted everyone in my department to be the help desk. So it doesn't matter whether you were a senior vice president or you were a director or whatever, you're just going to be a help desk person as well as part of your job. And that meant that by having this sort of huge, terrible word, this larger force of people that can support the business, I'm solving kind of 2 problems. One, right? Everyone can go out and sort of be in the face of the business instead of hiding in back rooms. But even more importantly, there's more opportunities to teach and educate. And so I haven't had to use metrics as a justification for headcount, but I do know a lot of colleagues that have conventional help desks who do have to use that metric. In my case, the justification for headcount usually comes from a more business-driven need, less than support side. But I will say this, in terms of metrics, there are other functions that I'm driving back towards Foqal that previously used our former system, like HR, for instance, and I want HR agents to come back. And the HR agents can use metrics. They're very, very metric. It's a very, very metric driven group. And they'll be doing things like first time or speed of first response and these other key metrics that most service groups besides IT don't really spend a lot of time on. But I'll be pushing all these other functions back into that metric gathering as well. So facilities, HR, legal, or contracts specifically, those will all be routing through Foqal too. And so it won't just be IT data. It'll be company-wide data. Like how is general and administrative as a function doing company-wide? And I think that will be very compelling data once we start to collect that.
And then what's awesome is both of you are kind of saying the same thing, that it's like you starting off with using kind of like setting this platform up and the system up for like Slack and IT, but then as soon as you do that, other teams are looking at it and going, wait a minute, we can do that too. So it's both of you both mentioning HR and finance, and all these other teams are coming in and going, wait a minute, we want to be more of a service organization.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the finance channel prior to Slack, or prior to Foqal rather. They're getting tickets like, how do I submit an expense report? And I can't see my benefits, and I can't log into the 401k portal. These are all help desk tickets, basically. And for these poor G&A functions are all suffering like this burden of no triage. Well, you know what? Come on in. We'll give you an agent, and we're going to set you right. And then you can, however you want data, you can get your own data for metrics. But they're going to pick up a lot more data than we are.
That is awesome. So thanks for both. I want to open it up for Q&A. If anybody has any questions, either send them in the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself and you can kind of go right ahead. Give it a second if anybody has any questions now, or I can keep talking, and I keep going for hours. I know that both of you signed up to be here for the next 3 hours, right? So
I want to mention one thing actually. which is we mentioned it. You mentioned employee experience a few times, but I think that and it'd be you know, Rami and I, we talked with you about this a bit, but employee experience is essentially the thing that I put at the top of the pile, and it's everything from 2 weeks prior to the start date to 2 weeks after they leave. What's the experience like along that journey, and how did I contribute to making it positive? And so where Foqal and also Slack, because they, you know, they work hand in hand, where they come into that, especially for a lot of employees who've never used Slack before, once they get used to that sort of asynchronous communication capability, that ability to sort of just quickly slash type or ask a question, and they realize overnight that, like, they're unlike their previous company where they had to put a ticket, wait 3 days, and get an answer from a level one. Now they're getting this immediate response effect. People leave my company and they come back and we talk and they say, you should, my current company's crap. I mean, you guys had it nailed. And I'm like, it wasn't really anything kind of magic. We just used a different platform than they're using. But I think what happens is, in that employee experience element, if you really, really put all of your money into that bucket, you'll be leaps and bounds ahead of all your competitors in terms of service. At least that's how I feel in my industry.
100%. Totally agree.
That's awesome. So kind of questions in the what's called in the chat. Can we see a quick demo? One, we can definitely show you a demo. It's a little hard when there's a bunch of other people. Demos are usually tailored to people. So if you go to here, I'll post in chat. If you go to foqal.io, and there's a big book a demo at the top button, click on that, and we'll happily show you a demo and spend a little bit of time giving you kind of a very tailored demo based on your environment and your experience. I think Kevin's asking what is like working with Foqal for sport.
Nathan, do you want to go or do you want me to go?
Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, that's been actually one of the highlights for us, is just you know, being able to you know, when we're working with all these customizations and integrations, you know, being able to reach out to Foqal support and actually get an answer and kind of get help, and they also have a large knowledge base library that we've leveraged quite a bit for using a lot of these integrations, but it's very customizable, you know, compared to a lot of the previous products that I've used. And it really allows us to customize it to our specific use case, which you know, rather than just, you know, some broad standard that the developer thinks, you know, that's what people are going to use. We can actually customize everything in it to our liking, and that has really allowed us, again, to become extremely efficient. So there's definitely a lot of support out there. Our experience has been really good support with Foqal. It's part of the reason it was one of the things that we discussed thoroughly before onboarding Foqal, was we wanted to make sure that, again, we're a startup. We're as you know, in any startup, there's a lot more work than people, and so we wanted to make sure we had some kind of hand holding when you know, especially in the beginning, until we kind of got our footing, and that was part of our decision making and the discussion points that we had before you know, going ahead and signing on. But it's been a very good experience for us.
Yeah, I echo that 100%. And I'd also say, somewhat related to that, is once you get into Foqal and you start playing around and you realize that there's so much potential for logical workflow development inside there. And it's all, for me, it was so intuitive. I didn't have to sort of ask a lot of questions. Once I got in and I was just started playing with stuff, I was like, I'm not calling support. I'm going to figure this out. And that's just me because I'm stubborn. But at the same time, the things I was learning, I'm sure, and I haven't had to use the knowledge base, but I'm sure that the answers are there. But I can tell you this, that it's a hammer for a lot of nails. Even if you didn't want to use Foqal for any help desk triage, like nothing to do with help desk, it's a huge Slack automation solution too. It's sort of like the secret sauce, just happens to also do tickets. It's kind of the way I describe it to people. So you really got to get under the hood. But my interpretation of the way support's been, they know the product better than anybody. So if you did need to ask a question, they're like, oh yeah, just bing, bang, boom, here you go. And then you're out. Very easy.
Awesome. And that's good to hear. I think one of the things that we like to say is that, like, we're a customer support company, so we have to make sure that we have less customer support as well. Raj's asking, thank you, Rami and Nate, for all the great insights, real use cases, best practices. What is the ideal customer of Foqal in terms of employee count revenue? Yes, I think is the answer. We range from, how Nathan here is a team of one to, we have companies that are, from a single user to companies that are using it with all of their other departments. We brought in somebody the other day that's like 150 users between all the different departments. We have we range, so we can help anybody from very tiny, single employee IT teams and small teams to very large teams as well.
I think it will accommodate. I mean, Vlad, tell me if I'm wrong, but it's really scalable to X. I mean, it would accommodate any company size, period. It really depends on the process, right? I mean, it's more about how do they want to do tickets and triage, but less so about whether or not it can support a company of 1 million, I think. No different than me. It's just how is your process built?
Yeah, I agree. It's just around like how you set up your process, how do you set up your flows. You can go anywhere from, doing everything in automation. Kind of like the automations you set up are irrespective of how many employees are doing it, and you can have as many employees or as many workflows you want, doing as many different things, or very few things doing very well. It's kind of up to you. I have a last question here since we're running a little short on time. I think we were supposed to be a 45-minute thing, but we're already like a few minutes over. So we'll do one more question, and let's cut it off here. What's your favorite third-party Foqal integration for automations, and I guess why?
For me, it would definitely be well, I've got two. Well, actually, I got three. Number one is Kanji. We use Kanji as our MDM for all our laptops, and the fact that it automatically integrates with Kanji. So whenever, I do look at a user, it automatically gives me their machine, their serial number, the specs of everything they're using right there on the side. I love that. And the fact that I can assign, Google Groups, Okta Groups, all from within Foqal. When I get those requests, I don't have to sign into Google Admin or sign into Okta Admin to go ahead and provision the user. I can do that through Foqal, through the integrations, so that again, it makes it a lot more efficient. Saves us a ton of time, instead of having to sign in all these SaaS applications. So those for us are definitely the ones that we leverage a lot.
I say for me right now, today, April 17th, it would be Airtable, but well, Zapier too, I suppose. But the webhook URL functionality in Foqal means that anybody can be my favorite app tomorrow. So yeah, I have our water sensors reporting into me via Foqal, and I never thought that would be possible. But anything that you sort of can touch or see or smell is my favorite application to integrate.
Awesome. Cool. So thank you once again to our awesome speakers, Nathan and Rami. I think one of the most interesting things to me, at least, is that you have very different approaches, but you're very much aligned. At least one thing is we're just kind of providing the best employee experience through Slack, using automation, and obviously, using Foqal as a vital part of that experience. So again, let me thank you both. Thank you everyone for coming. If you want to chat with us, come to foqal.io, or if you find out more about Rami and Nathan, I think we'll send some information about how to contact us, how to contact everybody. We'll be sending you some resources shortly. So thank you, everybody, and hopefully talk to everybody soon.
Yeah, if anybody has any other questions that didn't get answered, you can hit me up on LinkedIn, and I'll try to get back to you as fast as possible.
Awesome.
Same.
Thank you, everybody.
All right.